I noticed it immediately, a small, almost insignificant detail, but one that sent a cold spike through my chest the moment I saw it. Amanda stood in front of the hallway mirror, adjusting an earring with practiced ease, her little black dress hugging her figure in a way that, once upon a time, would have made my heart race. But tonight, I wasn't focused on the dress. I wasn't even distracted by how she'd spent over an hour perfecting her makeup, something she rarely did when we went out together. No, my gaze was locked on the pale strip of skin on her left ring finger, the place where her wedding band should have been, the ring that had rested there every day since the moment we said, "I do." She must have noticed me staring, because she glanced at me through the mirror, her lips curling into a small, unreadable smile. I swallowed, trying to keep my voice steady. "Your ring. Where is it?" Amanda turned to face me, letting out an exaggerated sigh as though I'd asked something absurd. She casually replied, "I took it off." "Why?" "It doesn't match my outfit." A sickening feeling twisted deep in my gut. Since when did she care about that? Her eyes rolled, and she stepped into her heels. "Don't make a big deal out of it, Daniel. It's just one night." One night. The words hung in the air like a heavy weight. I clenched my jaw, forcing the tension to release. "Where's this party again?" She hesitated for just half a second, a pause so brief most wouldn't have noticed, but I did. "Lindsay's," she said, grabbing her purse from the counter. Lindsay. I knew her. She was married with kids, and the kind of person who wouldn't throw a last-minute party. Even if she did, Amanda would have told me about it earlier. None of this felt right. None of it was normal. I pushed further, unable to stop myself. "You're going alone." Amanda let out a small, irritated laugh, finally meeting my gaze. "Yes, Daniel. I'm going alone. I just need a night out. Is that a crime?" Her tone was playful, but underneath it, I heard the challenge, the defiance. I had two choices. I could drop it, pretend I didn't feel the alarms ringing in my head, and let her walk out the door. Or I could push for answers and risk her blowing up at me. I took a slow, steadying breath. "Fine," I said, forcing the words to sound casual. "Just text me when you get there." She gave me another smile, a small, almost mechanical one that didn't quite reach her eyes. Of course. She didn't wait for me to say anything else. She grabbed her coat and walked toward the door, her heels clicking against the floor with a hollow sound, filling the quiet house with their sharp echoes. My chest tightened as I watched her leave, a strange sensation settling over me. Something I couldn't quite name, but it was heavy, like a weight. She hadn't said it. I stood there for a long moment, staring at the door, listening as the sound of her car's engine started, then faded into the night. My fingers twitched at my side, and a wave of unease washed over me. I grabbed my phone, seeing the last message she'd sent earlier that morning. A simple, "What do you want for dinner?" Since then, nothing. I opened our conversation, and as I stared at our thread, something inside me cracked. Without thinking, I typed, "Where are you really going?" I didn't send it. Instead, I clenched my jaw, locked my phone, and exhaled sharply. I would wait. I would see just how much of her story was a lie. The house felt different after she left. It wasn't just quiet. It was empty, hollow, like something had been sucked out of the air, leaving behind an eerie, spacious void. I sat down on the couch, my eyes glued to the phone, willing it to light up with a message. But nothing. Don't obsess, I told myself. Don't be that guy, the paranoid husband jumping to conclusions over something small. But my gut wouldn't let it go. The missing ring, the hesitation before she mentioned Lindsay's name, the way she dismissed my questions, as if I was just some inconvenience. I checked the time. 10:42 p.m. She'd been gone for almost 3 hours. I opened our messages again. The last thing I'd sent was a simple request, "Text me when you get there." She hadn't replied. I tapped out another message, "Hey, just checking in. Everything okay?" I hit send and stared at the screen, watching the words disappear into the void. The read receipt never came. Minutes passed, then 30, then an hour. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe her phone was on silent. Maybe she was actually with Lindsay, laughing, having drinks, letting off steam. Maybe I was being paranoid. But then I called. It rang. I dialed once, twice, then a third time, only to be met with voicemail. I hung up, trying again, but this time, it didn't even ring. Straight to voicemail. Amanda had turned off her phone. My fingers tightened around my phone, my heart pounding in my chest. I knew what this meant, though I didn't want to face it, but deep down I did. I stood up, pacing the living room, running my hand through my hair. I needed proof, real proof. I couldn't just accuse her based on an unsettling feeling, no matter how strong. Then I saw it. Amanda's laptop, still open on the kitchen counter. The screen was dimmed but not locked. Hesitation gripped me for a moment. This was a line I had never crossed before. We trusted each other, or at least we used to. But tonight, that trust had already been shattered. I moved towards the kitchen, my steps slow, the weight of what I was about to do pressing on me. I tapped the trackpad, and the screen flickered to life. No password. Amanda had never been secretive about her devices, but something about this felt wrong. Too easy? Almost like she didn't care if I saw. I opened her messages, and there it was, the conversation at the top. The name wasn't familiar, but the message sent a chill through me. I can't wait to see you tonight. I'll be there soon. Just finishing up with him. I froze. My vision blurred at the edges, and my body went numb. My fingers scrolled through the messages, almost involuntarily. Weeks of conversations between Amanda and someone named Jason, and every word chipped away at me, leaving only a cold, empty rage. This wasn't just a mistake. She hadn't taken off her ring because of a moment of reckless abandon. No, she had planned this. She had wanted this. I grabbed the counter for support, my knuckles turning white as I read through the messages that laid out her betrayal. All the while, I had been sitting here, waiting, worrying, wondering, while she had been with him. I slammed the laptop shut, the sound echoing in the quiet house. My heart pounded in my chest, but I was no longer consumed by panic. I had my proof. I knew exactly what I had to do next. I didn't explode with rage or demand answers. That wasn't the man I was anymore. Instead, I grabbed my phone, the rage inside me controlled, cold. I tapped out an email with a steady hand. I'd like to schedule a meeting with a divorce attorney. I sent it, and the finality of those words hit me. When Amanda came home, she wouldn't be walking into the same marriage she left behind. I wasn't the same man anymore. The sound of tires crunching on gravel snapped me from my thoughts. It was 5:37 a.m. I stayed still, listening to the sound of her car door closing, her heels clicking against the pavement, and finally, the front door opening. She stepped inside, moving with an unsettling ease, as though nothing had changed, like she didn't have a care in the world. Her keys jangled as she dropped them on the table. She didn't even look at me. I stood up slowly, my body tense. She finally noticed me, and for a moment, we just stared at each other. "Where have you been?" I asked, my voice calm, eerie in its steadiness. Amanda sighed, slipping off her shoes like she was tired of the conversation already. "Out," she said dismissively, like it was nothing. She didn't offer any more explanation. She didn't even try to lie. "You turned off your phone," I continued. She shrugged, indifferent. "I didn't feel like talking," she said with a tone that bordered on boredom. My fists clenched. Then, I glanced down at her left hand, still bare. She hadn't even bothered to pretend to put her ring back on. "Where's your ring?" I asked. She hesitated for just a second, and I could see it in her eyes. A fleeting moment of guilt or discomfort, quickly masked. "I took it off," she said flatly. I nodded slowly, a tightness in my jaw. "Why?" Amanda exhaled, rubbing her temple. "Does it matter?" I let out a bitter laugh. "Yeah, Amanda, it matters." She barely seemed to care. She didn't flinch or try to hide anything. "I'm tired," she said, already walking towards the hallway. "I'm going to sleep." I watched her go, her footsteps slow and unhurried, as if nothing had changed, as if she hadn't just shattered everything. When the bedroom door clicked shut behind her, I stood still, staring at the empty hallway. My body felt rigid, tense, but not with anger. I wasn't angry anymore. I was done. I didn't move towards her. I moved towards the laptop. Amanda thought I'd let this go. She thought I would sulk, stew, then come crawling back like I always had after an argument. Not this time. When she shut the door behind her, I had already crossed the point of no return. I sat at the desk, her laptop's dim glow casting long shadows. The house was silent still, almost as if it knew the gravity of what was unfolding. I went through the messages again, Jason's name standing out like a neon sign. The sickening familiarity of her casual texts to him made my stomach churn. This wasn't just one mistake. This wasn't a fleeting lapse in judgment. Amanda had been building a second life while I sat here, loyal and trusting. She had assumed I wouldn't notice, that I wouldn't check, that I wouldn't question. But I wasn't that man anymore. I forwarded the messages to my email, backed them up on a separate drive, and then went deeper. Call logs, deleted texts, financial records. And there it was, clear as day. A hotel receipt, dated last weekend, paid with our joint credit card. She hadn't even tried to hide it. My breath was slow and measured, but my hands were ice cold as I pieced it all together. This wasn't a one-night affair. This had been going on for weeks, maybe months. She had built a life behind my back, while I was left playing the part of the loyal husband. I closed the laptop, the weight in my chest turning into something sharper, something controlled. I wasn't going to explode. I wasn't going to beg or yell. Amanda had made her choice. Now I was making mine. The sun had barely risen when she shuffled into the living room, groggy and still half asleep. She didn't even look at me as she made her way to the kitchen. I stayed seated, waiting. After a few moments, she finally spoke. So, she trailed off, not quite looking at me. About what you said this morning. I didn't respond. I wasn't biting. She set her coffee cup down, her eyes scanning the room, then flicking back to me. You weren't serious, were you? I stood up, taking a deep breath. You figured I'd cool off, didn't you? I said, my voice eerily calm. Amanda shrugged it off. Daniel, people don't just throw away their marriage over one bad night. One bad night. I repeated the words in my head, bitter and cold. Yeah, Amanda. One bad night, I said, my voice dark with irony. She arched a brow, waiting for me to lose it, for me to yell. But I didn't. I walked past her, not answering. Where are you going? She called, her voice a little more anxious now. I didn't answer. She followed me down the hall. Her footsteps quickened. She could feel it. She could sense that something was different. Daniel, she called again, her voice softer now, laced with uncertainty. Where are you going? I didn't answer, just walked towards the bedroom door. When I pushed it open, Amanda's face went pale. Her side of the closet was empty. Neatly packed suitcases. A few boxes at the foot of the bed with everything she had left behind. Her perfume bottles. Her shoes. The trinkets that had once made this place feel like ours. What the hell is this? She stammered. This is your stuff, I said simply. Her brow furrowed, and for the first time, I saw at cracks in her composure. She wasn't just dealing with my anger. She was dealing with the consequences of her own choices. She laughed in disbelief. Oh, come on. You're being dramatic. Dramatic. That word again. I reached into my pocket, pulled out my phone, and tossed it onto the bed. The screen still open to my email. A meeting with my divorce attorney, I said, the words final and cold. Amanda's face went blank, her lips parted, and for the first time, she had no snarky comeback, no eye roll, nothing. She just stared at me. Her voice was barely a whisper. You're serious? I nodded. Yeah. For a moment, she didn't know what to do. She swallowed, her fingers twitching at her sides, like she wanted to grab her phone or say something. But she didn't. She forced a scoff, a final attempt at control. So that's it. You're just giving up on us. I shook my head slowly. Us. I repeated the word, my voice bitter. There hasn't been an us in a long time, Amanda. You made sure of that. She stood there, lips pressed together, her expression shifting between frustration, annoyance, and maybe even fear. But it wasn't because she was losing me. It was because she was losing control. I grabbed my keys from the dresser and headed for the door. Amanda stepped forward. "Where are you going?" she asked, but I didn't answer. She laughed breathlessly, shaking her head. "That's real mature, Daniel." I stopped with my hand on the doorknob, turning to face her. "Mature?" I repeated, my voice low and controlled. "You took off your wedding ring before leaving to screw another man. You turned off your phone while I sat here, wondering where you were. You lied to my face and didn't even bother pretending to feel bad about it. You don't get to talk to me about maturity." She swallowed hard, but said nothing. I exhaled slowly, shaking my head. "You don't get to talk to me about maturity." And with that, I walked out. I didn't look back. I stepped into the cool air, feeling the weight of everything lift off my chest. The muffled sound of Amanda pacing inside didn't matter. She wouldn't stop me. As I walked down the street, the hum of the city surrounding me, I realized something unexpected. I felt free. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't waiting. Not for her. Not for a text. Not for an explanation. I wasn't waiting for anything. I pulled out my phone, typed one final message. "Your things are packed. The key will be in the mailbox. I won't be here." I hit send, then put the phone away, shoving my hands into my pockets. And I kept walking, away from the lies, away from the betrayal, away from her.